Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Etheria restart video. So in today's video, guys, we're going to be going over the Hypertalk that took place last night. This, basically comprised of some of the most asked questions during the final beta, to the community team in Discord. And they go over this, but they also touch on a couple things that I'll go a little more in detail. Like, we'll recap this whole thing, but I'll just skim over the stuff that I really don't care about, and I don't think is really important. But the three main things that I'll touch on are the new heroes. So they introduced a new SSR and gave us the full breakdown. And then they introduced an SR without any kind of details other than just like some gameplay. So we can't talk as much about that character, although I am happy that they're still releasing SR heroes. The other thing that they showed is a little more detail on the guild versus guild. I think they call it United Front or something like that. So that's exciting. And then they also talked about effect accuracy, placing debuffs, effect resistance, things like that, which I personally thought was the most important part. So we'll touch on those three things a little more in detail as we go. But yeah, so just a quick recap of this. The very first question that they go over is just reiterating the dupe system, right? I talked about this in a previous video. Every single content creator has put out a video about this. Yes, dupes work in all areas of the game, meaning prowess effects take place. So if you have, 2 copies of Leon and you put the other copy into your original copy, it will get the 5% attack, defense, HP boost in RTA. A lot of people thought that dupes wouldn't work there. They do. So yes, whales do have an advantage. However, the silver lining, I think, is that in regards to dupe systems in comparison to all the other gachas in this genre, these dupes really are not that important. People actually get upset whenever they pull a dupe of a character instead of a new character. So I do think that in regards to the dupe system, this isn't a huge deal. I think people made way too big of a deal out of it than what was necessary. The second question was just, some translation issues. They had some characters that they were calling he when it was a girl, or, a she when it was a boy or whatever. But yeah, like really fine-tuning that. I think the more important thing is to have the skills make a little more sense. There's a couple times where you don't know what the total damage multiplier is, what the application of how you actually land a debuff. It's kind of all over the place. So if they can fine-tune that, that would be good. I'd say that's a minor nitpick, but yeah, that should be streamlined. So the third question, I actually didn't even think about or was bothered by it. However, it does make sense when it comes to the competitive side of the game. So what people were experiencing was in the final beta, because there's different regions or servers, the Asian server or European server had a little bit of an advantage over the global server because of when the day would restart. The reason why this matters is because during the final beta, you're climbing your account level and things are gated behind your account level. So if you have more days to get to a higher level, you have access to different dungeons, like module dungeons, different PvE content for more rewards. So it did give you a little bit of an advantage, at least just for a short period of time, 6, 8 hours, whatever. So what their response was they were just saying, yeah, at launch, we'll just have, matchmaking for PvP and PvE leaderboards just within the region of your server. But once everything balances out and enough of the player base is a higher level, an account level across the board, then everything's going to be, inter-region matchmaking. So global will be able to play Asia and Europe. But I'm guessing that's going to be like a month or so. They didn't really give a timeline, but I'm sure that will be, resolved quickly. So that was question 3. Question 4 was just, custom key binding during the open world stuff, but it really, a lot of the open world is very limited in this game, so I don't know why people were bothered by that, in all honesty. So the 5th question, which I thought was okay, they were talking about, during matches or whatever, we can't see, the end results, like who healed, who did the damage, all of those things. And then they kind of just talked about banners, which was interesting. But yeah, I don't know if they're going to do that or not. I think that's a pretty quick fix. Now, this one I thought was really good. So someone asked if the pity counter for the banners will carry over to the next banner, and yes, it does. So, your banners like Freya or even the Messiah banner for LDs, if, let's say you summon 79 times on the Freya banner because they're reducing the overall pity to 80 summons on these banners, if you don't get Freya within that time and then her banner leaves, the next banner, you'll only need the one summon to actually get the new character. So that's amazing. Not only did they reduce the pity, which at 100 for the limited, I didn't even think that was an issue. But I'm not going to argue that 80 is a problem. 80 is certainly better. So not only that, but now they're carrying over the pity. This game is so great in regards to character acquisition. The amount of summons and stuff, now I know eventually it's going to dry up, but the fact that this isn't a 50-50 chance you're guaranteed to get the hero is awesome. So I think they're killing it in regards to that. So that was an awesome update. I didn't even expect that, but, kudos to them. That's awesome. The 7th question was just about, can you label characters tanks and supports and all of that stuff here? I don't think that's necessary. You can look at a character's base stats and kind of just derive this yourself. If people want to be holding their hand or whatever, sure. But I think with the internet nowadays, it's quite easy to find out what kind of character the character will be. Oh, so this is the data tracking. Sorry. Question 6 was... what was question 6? No, question 5. Oh, yeah, your pull rates. Yeah, sorry. I didn't even care about this. This one, I think, is necessary because it just helps you understand if your damage dealer is doing enough damage, if you're healing enough, from your support heroes. And without any kind of summary on how your run went, it does prevent you from doing that. I think that's more of a quality of life thing, but yeah, I thought that was interesting. So this is the question that I was extremely curious about. There was a lot of speculation going around in Discord and things like that, but they did confirm here. So as you can see, with his explanation, what happens is if you have a character, let's take Heinrich for example. So Heinrich here on his skill 3 says the final hit has a 65% chance to inflict a 2-turn block. Now, what Chris said in this video here is you can actually double the percentage based on the effect the effect accuracy. However, the maximum that you can get is 90% chance because the game has a built-in 10% effect resistance. You see this in a couple games like Epic 7 where there's a 15% effect res, static. It doesn't matter how much, accuracy or percentage chance you have. There's always a 15% chance that something gets resisted or you miss. So this game has it at 10%. However, it's odd that he mentioned that stats can be doubled. So right here, it says 2 times the skill probability. In all honesty, that's just very confusing. I don't know why they have that, or why they don't explain, okay, how much more effect resistance or effect accuracy do you need to double the skill probability? Because on characters like, I don't know, Marvel, right? Marvel's been a big topic of discussion, but like here, he has a 100% chance to inflict this, okay, but that's actually 90%, and then a 60% chance to decrease the target's turn meter. Okay, but then you also, but per Chris, this can go up to 120. However, the built-in effect resistance is 10, so the highest it ever gets is 90. Like, it's just so confusing. I don't know why that's there. If someone has played a game where they have an in-depth knowledge of the 15% rule, like from Epic 7 that I gave, I would love to hear it, because this is so confusing to players like myself, where it says, okay, this actually isn't a 60% chance. With enough effect accuracy, I can get this up to 100% and then hope that I don't hit on the 10%, effect resistance built in, the RNG. Where also, if you have enough effect resistance, which they also don't mention in this, hopefully they put it in the game, but apparently you can get that down to 30%. I mean, per what he says, right? He says 2 times the skill probability and reduce it to a minimum of half the skill probability. So it's confusing to me. However, it is nice to know that the effects, if they say, 50% chance, you need to consider that it's actually better than what it is. So your RNG will actually be better. So that was very telling and interesting. I just wish they kind of would have went into it a little bit more. Hopefully, whenever they release some kind of Discord notes, they elaborate on that a little bit. Question 10 was also awesome. People talking about the stamina allowance, and in the last Hypertalk they did in episode 1, they said that they weren't going to change anything, but their response on this was they actually will increase it. Now, I don't know how long it's going to be for, but he said they're increasing the free stamina. So on your dailies, right? On your dailies, that's where you'll be getting more stamina. I'm pretty sure it's just going to be from those stabilizers, which is great. I don't think the daily allowance of 10 refreshes with the crystals is going to change. I think they're just going to give probably another stabilizer in your daily drops, because I think they give 1 already. So maybe they're just going to increase that to 2 or whatever. But still, great change. The fact that you're getting more stamina is great. Here they talk about, they're going to have an okay ratio between the men and women animuses. I've never really ever cared about that. I just care about the gameplay and if the game's fun. If they want to have all female characters, whatever. Same thing with male characters. I never cared. So they ask about new animuses here, and this is where they introduce the new character, Mio. So Mio, they have a skill breakdown, but the important thing to know about Mio after this quick ad is she is an LD. So she is a light hero, light SSR. So keep that in mind, a little bit harder. However, this is going to bring up the conversation, I'm sure, of should you reroll for her instead of Lily. But a couple things to point out here. All right. So her base speed is 113. That means when it comes to overall speed, she is just a tad bit faster than like a Heinrich. So Hoi-An here has 113 base speed, and then she gets 15 speed from the prowess upgrades to get her up to 128. So she's going to be pretty quick when it comes to speedy characters. You know, she's going to be in the top 10. So it's a good base speed stat. Now they go over her skill kit, which we'll show, but the key things that you need to know on her skill 1, she freezes somebody. On her skill 2, it's an AoE freeze. You actually don't see the percentage or how long, just because they don't show the right screenshot. And then skill 3, she steals turn meter and boosts turn meter with an AoE speed up. This is like an extremely strong character in PvP and PvE. So there's the single target freeze. Here is the skill 2 freeze. It's for 1 turn. And then it did look like, real quick, that you could reduce the skill cooldown on the screenshot that they showed. So on skill 2, right here, you can reduce the skill cooldown to 3 turns. And it looks like the chance of inflicting freeze goes to 40%. The 4th level, I don't know what that is. It might increase the multiplier, most likely. But yeah, again, like inflicting freeze to 40%, what we know now is that can actually double. So this could go up to 80%. So that's what I mean. Like you really need to pay attention now to heroes' skills now that you know that. So yeah, that is a CC ability. That's going to be amazing in Doki Doki. And then this 3rd skill is pretty bonkers. It's got a high multiplier, which is also nice. And then she has a 65% chance to steal everyone's turn meter by 50% and then redistribute it, equal to 25% amongst all allies. And then she grants a AoE speed for 2 turns. And then that can be reduced to a 4-turn cooldown as well. This character is really, really strong. However, the thing is she's going to need some support where she's not going to be able to land her freeze or steal turn meter if someone has like an immunity buff up. So she'll still need a debuffer like Heinrich and all those things, kind of what I was talking about in yesterday's video with speed. The speed set being quote-unquote overrated. That wasn't the whole point of the video, but yeah. So they showcase her, which she does look nuts. And then they also showcase this SR. So this SR is a green hollow unit. And she has 2 dispels, although we don't know if they're single target or AoE. And then on her skill 2, she has a wound. And again, we don't know if this is a single target or AoE. One thing to mention is it looks like she gives herself a unique buff. So that's going to be interesting to find out. And then the wound ability, although if she might have just used her wound ability right there. Did it go on cooldown? It did not. So here's the dispel. Okay, so the dispel is an AoE. And I think she just used her skill 1. So anyway, wound, as I was mentioning, counts as a control effect. So if it's an AoE, that could be an okay option for Doki Doki because that removes the damage reduction. Right? Okay. So they talk about Hoi-An coming back. She wasn't in the final beta because she was getting reworked. We still don't know what the rework is. So here they talk about more events. They're going to have new events. They have this kind of dice rolling event for, gems and items. So you're going to get, more shops for you to get free resources. That's always awesome. The fact that they're releasing those things are great. I'm just really excited with all the changes that they're making, but they're answering questions. They're, keeping more things fresh for the community. They're tackling the questions that the community wanted. Here they mention guild versus guild, which does look like most other kind of siege guild versus guild gameplay that we've seen in other gacha games here, right? You have your specific towers. I think what is going to end up happening here is like these generic towers. You're just going to have some kind of AI to get through, but you're going to use, PvP kind of game modes, whether it's 4v4 or 3v3, I don't know, 5v5. And then the purple towers, I'm sure you're going to be putting, your actual guild members' teams in there. And the yellow is, again, probably just your guild members. Maybe there's buffs or debuffs applied. There's any kind of way that they can go here. This is a pretty common game mode in gachas like this. But you get rewards, and then they also have another currency. So we're going to be getting another shop. So this is all really good news for free-to-play players. Any kind of new currency that you're going to be able to use in additional shops is going to save on stamina. It's going to help you, level up characters quicker. Might get more summons, all of those things. So yeah, it looks like a fun game mode. More and more things to do. Always a positive. They show the people who qualified for the EWS. Congrats to them. It's awesome. And I think that was basically it. But yeah, guys, new characters, new game modes, clarification on some of the combat systems, UI changes, all really awesome stuff. I just want it to be June 5th already. But yeah, anyway, guys, that's all I got. I hope you enjoyed. Catch you on the next one. See ya.